working to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Good evening, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching ASEAN in Focus on tonight's headlines. President Marcos Jr. and U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris have vowed to foster stronger cooperation between the Philippines and the U.S., and the two leaders made the commitment during a meeting held at the U.S. Naval Observatory in Washington, D.C. Our North America correspondent Arlene Ocampo will give us the details.
The economy, you and I share a passion for that.
President Joe Biden underlined the ironclad U.S. commitment to defend the Philippines as he welcomed his counterpart President Marcos at the White House. Our U.S. correspondent Don Orozco has made an exclusive interview with Secretary John Kirby, the coordinator for strategic communications at the National Security Council in the White House. China's foreign minister met Myanmar's junta chief in Naypyidaw, the highest-ranking Chinese official to meet the country's top general. And the Iglesia Ni Cristo sponsored a blood donation drive in Laos, a cleanup drive in Bangkok. Our ASEAN Bureau correspondents from Laos and Thailand for the report. First in our news, President Marcos Jr. and U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris have vowed to foster stronger cooperation between the Philippines and the U.S. to achieve a digital inclusion, a clean energy economy, plus food security, and the dispute in the South China Sea, plus more. The two leaders made the commitment during a meeting held at the U.S. Naval Observatory in Washington, D.C. Our North American correspondent Arlene Ocampo reports from Washington, D.C.
Behind the trees and back of me is a residence of the U.S. Vice President. Today, Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and his wife Louise were hosted here by Vice President Kamala Harris and Second Gentleman Doug M. Hoff for a brunch. Marcos and Harris discuss enhancing Philippine security and driving investment to its local communities. The two leaders also look to strengthening the U.S. and Philippines economic partnership. Also discussed is their shared commitment to the rule of law and respect for human rights. Joining Marcos and Harris are Philippine government officials and representatives of the Filipino-American community, including business and civic leaders.
It's probably stronger than ever. Under your leadership, we have been able to continue to do the work that we have that is a priority around our mutual prosperity and security. During my visit to the Philippines, we discussed many issues, including the importance of a clean energy economy. You and I share a passion for that, as well as issues that relate to food security and what we must do around digital inclusion. And on the issue of security, of course, the work that our countries are doing together as it relates to the South China Sea, as it relates to what we must do in terms of continuing to work together through our Coast Guards. I was honored to go to Palawan. I went there after you and I met.
That's right, yeah.
And met with the fishers there and met with the Coast Guard, which the U.S. and the Philippines, our Coast Guards are working together in that region very closely. So
I can say that this visit of ours to the United States to see President Biden and himself, you laid the groundwork for it, really. I'm also part of the process. I think that that has given us the very attractive opportunity to continue to strengthen the relationship between the two countries in the context of all of the difficulties and complexities, the rising tensions in our region of the world. And once again, we turn to our American partners. You are our only treaty partners in the world.
yes.
And it is natural, after all the different cycles, like as in any friendship is, but I was telling Secretary Blinken yesterday that like any friendship, you go through many cycles, and I think this is an upside to that cycle.
Today is President Marcos' second day of his 4-day U.S. trip as the two nations commit to further strengthen their alliance. In Washington, Arlene Ocampo, Eagle News, we live in extraordinary times.
Meanwhile, President Joe Biden underlined the ironclad U.S. commitment to defend the Philippines as he welcomed his counterpart, President Marcos, at the White House yesterday. Our U.S. correspondent Don Orozco was able to talk to Secretary John Kirby, the coordinator for strategic communications at the National Security Council in the White House, and he discussed the bilateral meeting between the two leaders. Watch this.
You know very well, Secretary John, that what we have is the visit of the President of the Philippines there in the United States. And you know very well that previously, the Philippines and the U.S. has had some sort of a turbulent relation. And in this visit, he was able to talk with President Biden and the Vice President Harris. Apparently, President Marcos' visit is intended to forge a stronger relationship with the U.S. Do you think that this was achieved?
Oh, absolutely. This was a very productive, terrific discussion between President Marcos and President Biden. And you're right. This relationship has actually grown much closer in the last couple of years as both of these leaders have come into office and tried to reorient this relationship towards shared challenges, shared threats, shared opportunities in the Indo-Pacific region. And a lot of people don't remember, or at least a lot of folks here, stateside, that we have five of our 7 treaty alliances are in the Indo-Pacific, and one of them is with the Philippines. We have a mutual defense treaty that we take very, very seriously. So this was a terrific opportunity for President Biden and President Marcos to sit down together. President Biden was the first foreign leader to call and congratulate President Marcos when he won, and a great chance for them to sit down face to face and talk about some of these shared opportunities.
Perfect. Now, recently, the Pentagon actually announced that the U.S. military would expand its presence in the Philippines to address a range of shared challenges, particularly in the Indo-Pacific region. What do you think will it accomplish by sending? Go ahead.
What we're talking about here are just the access for U.S. military to 4 new sites through the defense cooperation agreement that we have with the Philippines. 3 of those sites are in the north, in Luzon, and then one is in the south, of course, more towards the South China Sea area. These are Philippine sites, military locations, not belonging to the United States. We're grateful that the Philippine government will allow us to have access to those sites for certain periods of time and for certain training and development opportunities with our Philippine allies. So I think what will happen here, what this will give us, on top of the bilateral defense guidelines that we've agreed to with the Philippine military, is it will give us opportunities to improve our interoperability. The opportunities for our military to learn to work even closer together than they already do, and to try to help pursue a modernization of this alliance. And we know another thing that hasn't gotten as much attention after the bilateral meeting yesterday is the fact that the United States is going to continue to help work towards modernizing the Philippine military, including with some coastal patrol boats and some other capabilities that we can all work together to, again, make sure that this alliance is as modern, as capable, as ready, as well trained as it needs to be to help each other out.
Perfect. Now, one of the things that the President Biden says was that the commitment to the Philippines is ironclad. Can you explain further? What does he mean by that?
What he means is that we take our mutual defense obligations to the Philippines very, very seriously. This is not just a friendship, although it is. Mm-hmm. It's not just a partnership, though it is that too. It is an alliance. We have a mutual defense alliance with the Philippines, which commits the United States to coming to the defense of the Philippines if they come under armed attack. And we take that very seriously, same as we take our commitments to our NATO allies. And you've heard the president say we're going to defend every inch of NATO territory. He means the same thing in exactly the same way when he talks about the ironclad commitment that we have to the Philippines.
Oh, and one of you know very well that the Philippines is really one of the allies of the United States in the ASEAN region. And we are very much aware of the continued provocation that was being made by China. Is that something that is of concern to you?
Of course, China's coercive and aggressive activities, particularly in the South China Sea, they're trying to force upon in neighbors in the region, including the Philippines, bogus maritime claims. All of that is of concern. And we have been very, very clear with the PRC privately. We have certainly been very clear publicly that we take that activity very seriously, that it needs to stop. And it's another reason why, quite frankly, that President Biden has put such a premium in his 2 years in office on reinvigorating our network of alliances and partnerships, which of course includes the Philippines in this ironclad commitment that he talked about. The Chinese have nothing like the vast network of allies and partners that the United States has at its disposal, which we enjoy and we do not take for granted. These relationships, these allies, these partnerships, they have to be continually nurtured. They have to be looked after. They have to be improved. They have to be bolstered, and that's what President Biden has really focused on.
Well, finally, do you think President Marcos was able to forge a stronger alliance with the U.S. government, particularly with President Joe Biden? Has this been achieved?
I will just tell you that both leaders came out of the meeting yesterday very happy, very pleased. I can certainly speak for President Biden. He was delighted to be able to host the president and the first lady of the Philippines here to the United States. And they did have a very long and very fruitful discussion around a range of issues. So do I believe that coming out of this meeting that we're on a very good, very positive, very solid track with this alliance and with our Philippine allies? The short answer to that is yes. Now, all this time you and I have been talking about, we've been talking mostly security challenges, and all that's very front and center. But President Biden and President Marcos also had a terrific opportunity to talk about economic development and trade opportunities between our two countries. And just as importantly, though it's not, it doesn't grab headlines, they had a chance to talk about increased people-to-people ties and people-to-people opportunities between the Filipino people and the American people. And of course, here in the United States, we're so proud of our Filipino-American community. It's large and it's influential, and it crosses every sector of American and
next in May. Now, this came after the successful conduct of the multinational staff meeting organized to lay the groundwork for the 17th ASEAN Navy Chiefs meeting at the Grand Hyatt Hotel in Taguig City last January. Take a look. A total of 25 delegates from various ASEAN member states attended the activity. Also discussed during the two-day planning session was the alternate conduct of the ASEAN naval exercise as a command post exercise or field training exercise, ANCM Roadmap 2024 to 2032, and the ANCM Guidelines for Maritime Interaction Draft, all of which are for the ratification of the ASEAN Navy Chiefs during the 17th ANCM proper, which is also set in May. The two-day meeting centered around the theme Synergy at Sea, Regional Cohesion for Peace and Stability. The idea for the AMNEX was submitted by the Royal Thai Navy during the 8th ANCM in 2014. The AMNEX, first held in 2017 in Thailand, is other news. China's foreign minister met Myanmar's junta chief in Naypyidaw, according to officials, the highest-ranking Chinese official to meet the country's top general since a coup more than 2 years ago. China is a major ally and arms supplier of the internationally isolated junta and has refused to condemn the military takeover. China stands with Myanmar on the international stage, according to Foreign Minister Qin Jiang, telling the junta chief Min Aung Hlaing, and this is also according to a Burmese language statement from the junta's information team. It said China advocates that the international community should respect Myanmar's sovereignty and play a constructive role in helping helping it achieving peace and reconciliation, said Mr. Chin, this in a later statement from the Chinese Foreign Ministry. Mr. Chin will remain in the country until Thursday, according to the junta. Mr. Chin said Beijing will continue to support Myanmar's development, accelerate key cooperation projects in the China-Myanmar Economic Corridor, and carry out projects on agriculture, education, and healthcare, according to the Chinese Foreign Ministry. Mr. Chin also met Myanmar's military-appointed foreign minister and its minister for international cooperation. Several Beijing-backed infrastructure projects are slated to run through northern Myanmar and link China's landlocked Yunnan province with the Indian Ocean. On Tuesday, Mr. Chin visited the China-Myanmar border, calling for friendship and cooperation between the two countries. China has maintained ties with the junta that has been shunned by many Western countries over its bloody crackdown on opposition to its rule. China appointed a special envoy to Myanmar, Mr. Deng Xijun, in December, who has met the junta leader at least twice since then, as well as ethnic rebel leaders. Beijing's diplomats are also mediating between Myanmar and Bangladesh for a pilot program to repatriate Rohingya refugees who fled a 2017 military crackdown, now subject to a UN genocide investigation. In the meeting, Mr. Chin reiterated that China backs Myanmar, boosting ties with Bangladesh, and said Beijing is willing to work with the two countries to expand trilateral cooperation. In tonight's other news, air carriers are mounting more international flights in a bid to recover lost revenues during the two-year COVID-19 pandemic lockdowns. In a report dated April 28, the International Air Transport Association, or IATA, said that global air connectivity has continued to recover in 2023. As of March, overall air connectivity stood at 79% of its pre-pandemic level, demonstrating a steady improvement despite slowdown in economic activity through 2022 and into the start of this year. IATA noted that while the recovery was seen in all regions, Africa performed the strongest. International air connectivity in Africa has exceeded its 2019 level and was at 104% in March this year, according to the global private sector-led aviation body. IATA has over 300 airlines in 120 countries as members, which carry 83% of the world's air traffic. In contrast, it said the Asia Pacific region continues to lag in air connections with just 62% of its 2019 level in March. Having said that, there has been a strong increase of 40 percentage points in Asia Pacific international connectivity over the past year, with China and other important regional markets only relatively recently reopening borders and lifting travel restrictions. They said they anticipate a sizable improvement again this year, which will further close the gap to the performance of other regions. IATA underscored the importance of air connectivity in facilitating the movement of people, goods, and services, thus enhancing global trade, investment, and travel. Air connectivity plays an important role in increasing economic growth, generating employment opportunities, and improving living standards. Earlier, IATA also projected the recovery of air travel by 2024, with overall air passenger numbers slightly exceeding its pre-COVID levels at 103% of 2019 numbers. It also predicted full recovery of the Asia-Pacific region in terms of domestic and international air travel at the tail end of 2025. High-end appliance maker Dyson said today that it would open a new factory in Singapore to manufacture next-generation batteries, as well as new facilities elsewhere to boost its research into AI and software development. At the size of 53 basketball courts, Dyson said the new plant was expected to be fully operational by 2025 and would be its most significant investment in advanced manufacturing. The company said research teams had been working globally on proprietary new technology for batteries, which would be assembled in a smart smart, digitally enabled environment. Dyson, famous for its bagless vacuum cleaners, among other gadgets, started its in-house battery program more than a decade ago, aiming to make them more sustainable and energy dense. Besides the new plant, the Singapore-headquartered firm also revealed plans to set up research and development centers in the UK and the Philippines, all parts of its $3.4 billion five-year investment plan. The company didn't specify how much the new battery plant would cost on its own. The researchers at the new Philippine Center will focus on AI and robotics, among other areas. And the firm said it intended to hire an additional 450 engineers. The R&D center in Bristol is expected to be working on a pipeline of products that stretches 10 years into the future. In other news, at 4 in the morning outside a Yangon monastery, Shui Lei and her team were wrestling 30 writhing pythons into old rice sacks and loading them into a van. It was just another day in the life of Myanmar's premier snake removal squad, prizing pythons and cajoling cobras from dangerous entanglements with the human world before returning them to their natural habitat. Take a look.
The 10 minute dream, I did that out. We tried to know lady and Yala. The Mubia in your post on Yala. Now, Luriga, Navio, the sound teaching Mamari South Dariale, Miala, Bono, Elumuri, no said very down a palme. The Ria is a gemmy Shabalamu. Sa chen ye shaba la mu ye naw ma tu ro jwat tin naw ko lai yin neအိမ်နေတဲ့ဝင်ရောက်မှုတွေဖြစ်ပွားတာများပြီးတော့မွေတွေ့မှုတွေများလာတယ်လို့ယူဆပါတယ်
In tonight's other news, the Church of Christ is inspired to give blood through the INC Giving Project and Felix Y. Manalo Foundation. Our ASEAN correspondent Marian Leal reports from Laos.
Iglesia Ni Cristo members in Vientiane, Laos show their care for humanity by donating blood in Red Cross Transfusion Center. With eagerness to save lives by donating blood, they arrived in the venue with enthusiasm and came physically prepared to pass as donors. They are thankful to the church administration for approving the said activity, and they are always united in helping others in any way possible. Reporting from Vientiane, Laos, I am Marian Leal. We live in extraordinary times.
And Iglesia Ni Cristo members, led by the resident minister, Brother Willen Regalado, conducted back-to-back cleanup drives in Thailand and Cambodia. Our ASEAN correspondent, Nicole Regalado, reports from Bangkok.
Brooms in their hands, smiles on their lips, and care in their hearts. Iglesia Ni Cristo members in Bangkok and Cambodia organized a cleanup drive around their respective communities with the aim to show their concern in the environment and in their neighborhood. Hand in hand, the activity was a success. Through the supervision of ministers assigned in their respective places, participants willingly sweep their surroundings for the overall benefit of the community. From Bangkok, Thailand, I am Nicole Regalado. We live in extraordinary times.
Thanks, guys. As my usual habit, I'd like to end the day on a positive note. Let's encourage and build each other up so that no one is left behind. And that's it for tonight's broadcast of ASEAN in Focus. I'm Alma Angela. Stay in the news because we live in extraordinary times. Good night.